the company about its diesel engine emissions. Where does that leave VW as the company drive to resolve this scandal?
Well, this is another step towards an end of the scandal for Volkswagen, a much less expensive step than the settlement that Volkswagen has already struck in the United States. One factor is very important to note here in this settlement in Canada. Volkswagen of Canada says that it is not accepting I have to look for the words right. It's not accepting legal responsibility, full legal responsibility for the scandal. That's the words that Volkswagen of Canada is using here, despite the compensation it pays to its customers. Why is this important? Well, here in Europe as well, many customers of Volkswagen were cheated, and many of those customers are currently trying to get compensation from Volkswagen in the courts, but Volkswagen is denying compensation for European customers. It simply agreed to replace the cheating software. This is a very fragile legal strategy Volkswagen is following here. It really has to pay attention how it regulates those legal cases worldwide. If it doesn't really pay attention, it might have to compensate European customers more. And that would mean that the 18.2 billion euros that Volkswagen has set aside so far for the legal costs of this scandal won't be enough.
Conrad, as far as the Japanese authorities is concerned, Kuroda, who is the head of the BOJ, decided to keep their fingers off the interest rate button. What's the view of the people in the market about this? Is this significant enough from the Japanese as far as the market is concerned this Tuesday?
Well, this is an event that is sort of giving the market some support, mostly because the Bank of Japan said it's more upbeat about the outlook for the Japanese economy in 2017. Which of course has to do with the extreme devaluation of the Japanese currency, the yen, since the election of Donald Trump in the United States. Since election day in the US, the Japanese currency has lost 17% of its value, which of course is big help for Japanese exporters. In terms of monetary policy, some people on the markets had expected that given that also since Trump's elections, yields on government bonds worldwide have been rising somewhat, the Japanese central bank might increase the cap it has put on the Japanese government bonds, but it said that it leaves this cap at around zero for 10-year Japanese government bonds, and this is an indication that the Bank of Japan stands ready to continuously pour trillions of yen into the bond markets, also into equity markets. Let's not forget, the Bank of Japan also buys Japanese shares regularly, so monetary policy will remain very generous in Japan, and that's a piece of encouraging news for investors worldwide.
Okay, Conrad, thank you very much for your time today. Our hearts and minds with the Berliners and all of you in Germany about that Monday night truck attack at the Christmas market. Let's come back home here in Nigeria, where Christmas in Nigeria this is the first time Nigerians will be celebrating Christmas in recession. And so, how are the markets prices shaping up in the final days before December the 25th, just about 6 days to that? Live here in the studio with me is a research analyst from Financial Derivatives, Nosike Nwajide. Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
This is a time in the year folks move around a lot, hoping to open their wallet, use the ATM, the POS, whatever it is, go shopping. Some do household utensils, some just do for the basic consumables, as it were. So what's things looking like on the street as we speak?
Well, all through the year, prices have been on the up. Prices of domestic consumer goods have been rising. And most people expect them to rise even further during Christmas, like rice, for instance. Most analysts expected it to get to 40,000, but it's still...
For 50 kg?
Yeah, 50 kg back to get to 40,000. It's still about 22 and 23,000 naira, thereabouts. This is basically because of two reasons: weakened demand and consumer resistance, basically. Now, weakened demand, incomes have basically stayed the same, if not fallen, over the course of the year. Inflation has risen to as high as 18.4%. Disposable incomes, discretionary incomes would have fallen by 18.4% basically. So the less income you have to throw about during Christmas, where usually you increase spending, this year it's very different. It's very, very different, and people are not spending as much.
Yeah, but the government releases a few amount of money for some state governments to pay salaries. You think this too little, too late?
Well, most of them pay off their debts.
Oh.
Yes, most of it goes into paying off debts. It will have some impact. People will spend, but not nearly as much as usual.
In terms of how other variables contribute to higher prices at this part of the year, if you look at the energy cost, for example, yes, of course, no higher electricity tariff yet, but in terms of petrol, diesel, folks running this more than usual during this Christmas period because the weather, again, is not really friendly, about 32 degrees centigrade every day here looks really hot, isn't it?
Yes, the exchange rate is probably the overriding factor when it comes to most consumer goods. We can't produce, we have insufficient local production to meet local demand, so we import most manufacturers import most of their inputs. And if the exchange rate, if you can't access at the IFM at 305, 310, you resort to the parallel market, which has gone up to about 485 or 490 thereabouts. And switching to parallel market increases the cost by, say, 30–40%, and only few manufacturers can actually absorb the burden of the cost and not pass it on to consumers. So first quarter 2017, that would probably be the most overriding factor.
These figures aren't looking good. A carton of turkey, 10,500. Rice is at 24,000. Vegetable oil, 3 liters, 3,060. Chicken carton, 10,000. Tomatoes basket, 10,000. If you do a rough math here, I'm looking about close to 80,000. That's in Lagos.
Yes. Another factor affecting these, like you said, is energy costs, even logistics costs. Recently, we had today, Business Day reported that the landing cost of PMS at the ports about 210 million. So we know it's probably just a matter of time before the PPRE has to review petrol prices from 145 to God knows what. We have no idea, but that is already playing a role and will play a bigger role in early 2017.
Thank you. Nasuke Onwajide, research analyst at Financial Derivatives Company. We'll be back after the break. Stick around.